Welcome everyone to the Pathways to Prosperity session. Today's session will be responding to temporary foreign workers' needs during COVID-19 in BC. So I welcome all of you for attending today's session. Uh, my name is Dennis Juarez, and I will be the moderator for today. I am the manager of MOSAIC's Migrant Workers Program, and I welcome you all for attending today's session. Next slide, please. So, MOSAIC's Migrant Workers Program and Options Community Services operates on the traditional and unceded Coast Salish territories, the ancestral lands of the Kwantlen, Katsi, Semiahmoo, and Tuasan nations. Before we move on to the presentation, I want to mention some housekeeping items. Um, so if you can type in your questions in the Q&A section, and your questions will be answered at the end of the presentations. And right now, I will introduce the speakers of today's session. We have Iris. She is the program manager for the Newcomer Employment Program, BC Settlement and Integration Services, and Migrant Workers Project. She has been working in the immigrant, refugee, migrant workers serving sector for 19 years. She is passionate advocate for workers' rights. She strives to lead teams and projects that empower migrant workers to exercise their rights. Last year, under her supervision, Options Community Services Migrant Workers Project hosted 38 events for migrant workers with 1,544 workers participating. The workers received accurate information, access to health services, community services, emergency services, among other services. I also want to introduce Jennifer. Jennifer is the coordinator of the Migrant Workers Program at MOSAIC, where she supports the team and the 22 collaborating agencies funded under MOSAIC's Community Capacity Building Project. She has previously supported older adults and naturalized citizens within the settlement sector. Jennifer is also a certified intercultural practitioner and has facilitated many diversity, equity, and inclusion workshops across BC. Also, we have our final speaker is Carolina, is the settlement worker for MOSAIC's Migrant Workers Program, where she specializes in outreach and community support. She previously worked as a liaison officer for the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program at the Consulate General of Mexico in Vancouver. So I welcome all of you and thank you for attending today's session. And I will be giving the floor to the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. Thank you, Dennis, for the introduction. Good morning, everybody, and good afternoon. So I will start today's session at the beginning with the Migrant Worker Support Network. The Government of Canada recognizes the vital role that temporary foreign workers play in supporting our country's economy and food security. To address the needs of migrant workers coming into Canada, Employment and Social Development Canada created the Migrant Worker Support Network. From the discussions that took place in this network came the BC Pilot Project, which is broken up into three distinct projects led by AMSA, Success, and MOSAIC. AMSA's project addresses training needs for service providers. They provide a resource and information toolbox for organizations assisting migrant workers through the online Migrant Worker Hub and regional training sessions. Success's project focuses on port of entry services for temporary foreign workers through the Community Airport Newcomer Network, also known as CAN. You may recognize them as the informational kiosk at the Vancouver International Airport, which provides immediate orientation and referral services to migrant workers upon arrival in Vancouver. Just one more in the last slide. MOSAIC's project works toward community capacity building to support and educate migrant workers and employers. In the next slide, I will go into a bit more detail about MOSAIC's community capacity building project. All right. And so in this, through the Community Capacity Building Project, MOSAIC acts as an intermediary, providing funding and coordinating support and events with collaborating agencies. We provided funding to 22 agencies across BC, all of us working together to support and educate migrant workers and employers in our communities. Key aspects of this project include close collaboration and strengthening of community partnerships, dissemination of resource materials, and direct support to migrant workers and employers. Next slide, please. These are some of the services that are offered by the Community Capacity Building Project, which include things like educational info sessions about employment standards, about workplace health and safety, income taxes, housing, and all sorts, all relevant to temporary foreign workers. We also have mobile health clinics, emergency support, both COVID-19 and non-COVID-19 related, outreach work to communities, translation and interpretation support, transportation support, mental health support, one-to-one case management, community events, housing support, English classes, skills training, and many more referrals to things like food banks, emergency shelters, and other agencies. Next slide, please. Perfect, thank you. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, MOSAIC offered 3 different streams of funding to address the immediate and growing needs of migrant workers. Stream 1 responded to immediate response to emergencies. Through this process, organizations may apply for funding to provide short-term and immediate emergency financial aid to temporary foreign workers in situation of emergency. This would include both COVID and non-COVID related emergencies. In Stream 2, that included project-based capacity building. This stream of funding may include emergency funding, both COVID and non-COVID related, along with project-based funding. Collaborating agencies may be eligible for a maximum of $60,000 under this stream, and there is a limit of 1 proposal per organization. And now the final stream, Stream 3, has ad hoc funds, and this is for non-emergency and non-COVID related projects and or activities to support migrant workers. For example, this could include transportation to events, translation and interpretation support, and so on. I will now give the floor to my colleague Carolina, who will tell you more about MOSAIC's Migrant Workers Program and the types of support we offer to temporary foreign workers.
Hi everyone, good morning. Well, our role in MOSAIC Migrant Workers Program is to provide services to temporary foreign workers across BC. We have 4 objectives in our program, and the first of them is educate migrant workers about the rights and accessible services and resources in BC. Also, we help them to speak up, and we provide trusted channels to bring forward issues and allegations of abuse and wrongdoing. We work with different online reports, and we support also employers and understanding the conditions and requirements of the temporary foreign workers program in Canada. And the last thing, but very important, is that we're working together to enhance the knowledge and capacity of support other organizations to meet the needs of the workers and the employers. Next, please. Our project started back in April 2018. At that time, Dennis and I, we were in charge to promote our program, to promote our new office in Surrey. And so now we're here just letting you know that it's been really successful, and we keep working to support more migrant workers and work with other agencies. Next, please. Who is eligible for our services? So workers holding a work permit issue under the temporary forage worker program. If the workers bring their family, we can support also the wife or the partner and the children. We are not supporting tourists or permanent residents or international students enrolled in co-op programs. There are other organizations and other programs that can provide services to this immigration status. Next, please. Additionally, as a part of our mandate, we provide workshops and info sessions. We go to different job fairs. We create events at our offices in Vancouver and Surrey. We also participate in different resources fair around across BC, and where provide workers' rights and responsibilities, housing, bullying and harassment, health and safety at work, income tax, and Canada workplace culture. Next, please. During COVID-19, MOSAIC Migrant Workers Services are able online and by phone. So since March 2020, our offices in Zurich closed. And so we start to create different ways to connect with workers. And so we've been working from home, some of us, and we also provide services through WhatsApp, through Zoom, Teams. We try to connect with our colleagues the same way, but we're still keeping the same services available, therefore non-cost. And some of them are assisting with school enrollment. We also provide language assessment and English classes, assisting workers with filing out government applications or assisting filing complaints with employment standard. If a worker needs support in a doctor's appointment with interpretation, we also do that in emergency cases. And of course, we're working with options in applying for open work permits for vulnerable workers. And we're doing this also through online systems. Next, please. So as you might know, COVID has impacted temporary foreign workers and employers in different ways. Of course, it is really unfortunate that a lot of people are going through difficult situations due to COVID, but we also find a positive side of this, of COVID. And so the positive side will be that service providers implement innovative methods to accommodate workers' needs during the pandemic. In our case, for example, we are flexible with our work hours. We work from Monday to Saturday, 9 to 5. We also work online services and outreach services. We strengthen our collaboration between our partner agencies. We are supporting clients in different languages in the mental health support area. And we're providing, in partnership, online info sessions across BC. We are able to connect with other industries, not just farm workers. But the negative side of COVID-19, of course, there are a lot of workers stuck in Canada due to flights cancellations. So some of them, they couldn't go back to their country. They had to stay more than a year here. Medical accessible issues. This is one of the most difficult issues for us to be able to support workers. There's a lot of work-related accidents and or people getting COVID. The short of labor with employers and workers. So some workers are not able to perform duties for other employers because they are under a closed work permit. And delay of government applications as well. Work permits are delayed or LMIR process are not complete, so workers cannot start working for this new employer. Also, workers feeling overwhelmed because they're getting a lot of information from different channels, from the government, from us, agencies, and from employers. And we have to reduce our in-person services. So that is also a negative impact to migrant workers and employers.
Thank you. Yes, so my name is Iris, and I work for Options Community Services. Options, it's located and providing services in Surrey, Delta, Langley, and White Rock. And so we are located geographically very close to many places like farms and other areas where there's a lot of agriculture workers and temporary foreign workers, like in other fields like trucking, hospitality, And so we are have multi programs and multi services for temporary foreign workers and for immigrants as well. And Options, it's one of the members of the Migrant Worker Network, receiving funding to provide services to migrant workers. So I'm going to walk you through. So what does it look like, for an agency under this project? How does it work with all those streams that Jennifer talked about it? How does it apply and how we are working together? Yeah, so when COVID came, it took us all of us by surprise. And how do we respond to the needs of the workers? The workers were already a vulnerable group of clients, and with COVID, it just exacerbated the needs and the challenges that they already have. So when COVID hit us, we rapidly adjusted and adapted to our services and look for different ways and support so that we can continue, that we can provide services to these emerging needs. So we do have staff under this project that provides services in Spanish, English, and also in Punjabi. As here in Surrey, we have a large number of temporary foreign workers that speak Punjabi and English. So under the stream 2 of this project, we received the funds and we were able to hire staff and be able so that can provide support. So the info line, it's a phone number that the workers can call and have questions, and then they can be referred or provided services, and so see the best way where they need the help. And then with that, under that stream 2, we do provide like individual services, just like what Carolina was saying. And some of the services that we've seen, or the more demand, the services in demand during COVID, it's been accessing some of the government benefits, such as like the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefits, as we have seen, especially in the agriculture, number of workers that were affected by COVID and they had to be in quarantine, so they needed to apply for those benefits. So our staff was there to be able to walk them through to get that support. Same along the same lines, those who were affected, they needed to either do a work safe or a serve or a service, or through a Service Canada. So our staff helped them walk through and navigate to those benefits and see which ones were the one they were eligible for. Also with that, there was a lot, more clients inquiring about open work permits because of situations they were living with COVID. The COVID guidelines were not followed by employers, and so their health was at risk. So some of them were looking for an open work permit. So, those we were able to provide support. And then in the same line, so the reporting tool, right? We teach the clients how to report those, fraud and use the Service Canada online tool so that they are able to access and report those, the fraud or employers. Yeah. Also with this, there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of challenges, emotional challenges with workers, and we refer them to another agency within the network that it provides counseling services, and that is FAST. So the clients who were experiencing and they needed to speak to somebody and receive counseling services were referred to those services. Prior to COVID, we were having very fun and at the same time informational nights. So where, before COVID, we were able to have like a nice dinner and gather with the workers and provide them with information. Post-COVID, we weren't able to gather anymore, and that left a big hole in the workers that kept asking us, oh, when are we going to have another dinner? And looking to do some of those celebrations that we used to do. But then, we had rapidly adapted to start using and teaching the workers how to access some of the digital tools like Zoom, so that we'll be able to connect through video conference, and same time like through WhatsApp, like video through WhatsApp. And so we're still there. It's not there yet, but so it's something that it's going to be needing to do, for a long time to bring for all the agencies to have the capacity, the staffing to teach, right? But we're moving along those lines. COVID-19 resources, telling the workers what's happening out there, like, what do you need to do, the restrictions, the province, what is the province updates in terms of COVID. So we constantly were telling them, you need to wear your mask, you need to, when you go out, like go into the stores, this is what you need to do. So because all that information was coming in English, so we were able to provide that information in the workers' first language. Some of the other groups is, continue to empower them so that they can learn about their rights. So they can learn about the BC employment standards and other tools while they're here, so they are empowered to learn about their rights. With like I mentioned before, there was a number of workers who had gone through the open work permit process, and they were approved, their applications were approved, and they were granted an open work permit. So now what do they do? And especially now, their market is very competitive because there's so many people who are unemployed. So these workers who maybe have very little Canadian experience and don't have maybe any other certifications or education in Canada, there's challenges for them to be able to find employment. So through this project, we were able to provide and help workers build their employability skills. So 22 workers were signed up to have food safe and first aid. So this is a very basic certificate that they can add to a resume, or they can have the certificate and just show to a new employer that they are they have knowledge, and so that they have experience and they're employable. So this is really helped to help those workers who have gone through the open work permit process that now has a work permit and need to be employed. So what, like Jennifer was saying, there is also, so the stream one, this is where the stream one comes into place, is the emergency support. So how did that look like? So we did apply for that. And so through these emergency funds, so we provided housing support. So 28 workers received the housing support. 28 might not seem like a huge number. There's many more workers who need support, but there's a limit. So 28, it's a big impact, because those are workers who were either laid off or the workers who were waiting for the work permit. The work permit was taking time. They had any other source of income. EI was taking long, so there was no support at all, any other support that they would be able to access besides this emergency funds. And so in BC, there was a benefit, but unfortunately, the workers would not qualify for those benefits, for the government benefits. So this was the only benefit that they would actually be eligible and be able to receive. 174 receive either a gift card or a food basket, and we had we make sure that the hampers were like with their food that from their home country. So we had a lot of Spanish clients, and we partner with some of the Latin stores, and so they'll be able to get the food that they actually like and the food that they actually eat. And also that reminds them home, like especially during this time, it's nice to have a meal that where, you know, you feel at home. 18 of the workers that were applying for the work permit receive certified translations. With the work permit application, you would know, if you know, that the document that they require, their IRCC required needs to, if they are not in English or French, then the workers need to provide a certified translation of those documents. And so through this funding, we'll be able to provide that support to the workers. And so, and this has been key, a key really so that the workers can provide and show their evidence, and so that the work permits get granted. So we've seen very like positive results. So this is a very positive to have, so to support the workers during that process. And during this time as well, we've been working closer with employers, and the partnership with the employer has really give us the opportunity to be, and access to more workers, and also strengthen, the relationship, the employers and the employees. We had some work, with some employers at the beginning, the middle of the pandemic. They needed to, there were some immigration processes that they were changing. And so everything was new to a lot of us. And so we helped them together with the employers, we helped them navigate the different new immigration processes that were coming into place. For instance, the renewal of work permits within Canada. And so they were referring clients, the workers, to us who needed to renew their work permits in Canada, and just to walk them through that, through the process. Also, because some of the employers were not able to, the workers weren't coming, and so with the airports were shut down, so new workers weren't able to come. So a lot of them were short on staff of workers. So we, with the workers, we were referring workers that were looking for employment opportunities, especially those who were in the open work permit process or other temporary foreign workers that maybe have lost their employment during that time. So we were able to help with some employment placement. And at the same time, we also, through a partnership with the Fraser Health, we were able to do 7 vaccination clinic, not COVID, unfortunately, but flu vaccine, measles, and other vaccines that are necessary for the workers to have boosters. So that was also very good. And at the same time, they receive health and wellness resources on site. So with COVID not necessarily being, we can't really do much outreach events, but through this health and wellness events, we were able to visit the work sites and at least leave the workers with a brochure or some information, or at least give them our phone number so that if they need something, they can have our contact information. We've been with some of the places of worship, or the temples here in Surrey or in other places. What we've been doing is we've been emailing them. We used to send them, go and post information, but right now, so we're emailing their staff so they can post it, or just if any worker come into their places looking for help, they know where to send them. It's same thing, sending our resources to our MLAs and MPs. These are a lot of places where the workers go and look for help. So we've been making sure that they do have our contact information in case workers are doing and needing help. And same thing with the library or the medias. During, being part of the network and have this community of other agencies is really key to help us with, provide the support that the workers need, because we, one agency, one person cannot really do it all. So the partnership with other organizations like MOSAIC and others, it's key to put the, more resources together, like knowledge together. So it's really, that's really key for this. That's been a key and the success of this project. Some of the things that we also been doing is reaching out to non-temporary foreign workers providers, so other community partners that they are there, so that they can get familiar with the challenges that temporary foreign workers are facing. And so also, we continue working with the different consulates, again, just to, continually bringing the resources, sharing resources. Yes, also, I personally am part of the AMSA advisory committee for the temporary foreign workers. And again, it's another table where we go and bring, the issues that the temporary foreign workers are facing, and that together we can bring some ideas of how to best help them and where the resources are. With COVID, it's, because we've seen the challenges, it's hard that, some of our offices are not taking people in person. So it's been, again, it's always a challenge, and with having information on hand. So through this time, we've been putting together all the resources that we are, that we refer our clients to, like, and the workers. So just to have like commonly used numbers, we would say. And so we put them together into this guide that we're developing, and it's coming soon. So the guide is just, it's going to have phone numbers that are commonly used. Especially, like, this is only for Surrey, Delta, and Langley. And so, for instance, we would have, let's say, a listing of all the hospitals, where the hospitals are located. Like, we have a section where, had a section on health, and it just talks, talks about like the phone numbers, the importance of having, about information, a little information from HealthLink in regards to vaccination. And we listed some of the health services like HealthLink, the medical services plan, and others, how to find a doctor here in BC or in our area, phone number for the local walk-in clinics in case they need to see a doctor, so they can help find it. And this can also would be helpful for the workers, because for the service providers, because sometimes not necessarily the workers would have access to internet, but we're hoping to, to distribute this to the various communities like churches, and sometimes, the workers maybe go to those places, or just any other in the community, that if by any chance anyone meets a worker and they need help, at least they would know where to send or where to guide the worker. So yeah, this is a work in process, but it is, it's coming soon. There's other programs within options that are supporting the temporary foreign workers. And one is the BC Settlement and Integration Services. So that provides also services for those who have a pathway to permanent residency. So we provide information with that. And with COVID, there were a lot of other projects that we took on, so that we were able to meet the needs of the clients under the Emergency Community Support Funds from the Community Foundation of Canada and the ESDC. There was the emergency funds, where we worked with Fraser Health to make sure that the workers were getting all the health resources during COVID. Another program, again, under the emergency funds, from the government of Canada and the United Way of the Lower Mainland. We had the food hub. And so this was to help the workers with, those who were facing food insecurity. And so we were giving them like gift cards and some kits, like personal with help, care kits, and so that they, be able to, to have what they need in these difficult times. And with those, especially those who had no income. At the beginning of the pandemic, the Vancouver Foundation were kind of to give us donations where we were able to get 280 welcome kits, and the welcome kits were distributed through the Mexican consulate to the different hotels with a lot of the workers were in quarantine. And also they were distributed to the Philippine consulate as well, and to clients and workers, like when they came to us or for emergency situations. And so, yeah, that's what we've been busy trying to meet the needs of the worker during these difficult times. And so, thank you.
Thank you, Iris. So like Iris mentioned, we're trying to cover the needs of the workers around BC. And so we're trying to follow best practices to ensure the health and safety of migrant workers at the workplace during COVID. We've been doing a couple of things, and one of them is keep the workers informed about the health and safety regulations imposed by the government in their native language. Because we need to make sure that the workers know their rights. And with COVID, everything is changing every day, every week. So we have to make sure that they receive the information. As a settlement worker, we have to be always aware of the trends, the new information. We have to be in contact with our partners. And so we prepare information in their languages. And we also share those, for example, in MOSAIC website, or we also provide this information through massive emails to our clients with all of the new links to follow these new regulations. We explain, for example, about what is the COVID, what happened in your initial 14-day quarantine period, especially for farm workers. A lot of workers were asking, do I need to do a double quarantine? So quarantine at the hotels and then doing quarantine with my employer. So we have to clarify all of those things to the workers. We have to explain how much do they get paid if they do the quarantine, and if they go to the farm and they get COVID, who is going to cover that salary, because when they are getting they are under COVID sickness benefits, for example. We check in with workers to see if any support is needed. So we phone them. We also do the online and in-person outreach. We remind the workers to self-assess their health and take necessary safety precautions at work and in the community. Also, if they have to go to MOSAIC to fax, to send a fax to WorkSafe, for example, if they are in a situation with WorkSafe, we have to bring the workers to the office, and we also ask them to self-assess before going to MOSAIC, for example, or to a medical appointment. We connect with government agencies and consulates to see if there are new guidelines in place. We work really closely with WorkSafe BC, Employment Standard Branch, Mexican Consulate, and other consulates for the swap workers program. And we're also in contact with WALI and IRCC and MSP offices. Next, please. So like I mentioned, or like Jennifer mentioned before, our MOSAIC program received funding from Employment and Social Development of Canada. And so we are having meetings with them and getting more information about the new regulations. And they recently shared with us the ESDC COVID-19, a guide for temporary foreign workers in Canada. This guide, it's available in English, French, Spanish, Thai, and Tagalog. We provide this information through email to our clients and partner agencies. And it is a robust file. It's over 20 pages and covers different sections. And so from what COVID-19 coronavirus is, to contact, to report your employer for not respecting the COVID-19 requirements. And it's good that we have this in different languages because, like I mentioned before, there is an overload of information, and sometimes it's really difficult for workers to go through the websites, different websites, and they get confused. So we gather, or they gather all of this information, and we are able to share. And if someone has any question, we go through this pamphlet brochure, and we'll explain more in details to the workers. Next, please. Okay, so we decide to share with everyone a case scenario, a scenario that we unfortunately see really often in this in our job. So I'm gonna read the scenario, and we're gonna explain how we support between agencies the workers when they reach out a settlement agency. So a BC construction company brought a construction worker from Guatemala for a 2-year contract, a salary of $26 per hour with a full-time position. The worker brought his wife and 2 sons. So the wife is holding an open work permit and the children a student permit. The worker paid $7,000 for the LMIA application, the work permit, and advertisement to the employer in cash through their pay stub. The worker did not receive any document or receipt as a proof of this payment. The worker has been receiving $15 per hour instead of the $26 per hour, working 60 hours a week with no payment of overtime and no breaks. The employer is not providing a pay statement. The worker has no record of government deductions such Canadian pension plan, employment insurance, and income tax. The worker is living on the employer's premises, also is paying in cash to the employer $800 plus utilities. The employer obligates the worker to work holidays and sometimes weekends. The worker does not speak English, neither does their family. Also, the workers now doesn't have MSP. The worker is now in a vulnerable situation. He doesn't have an employment because he decided to quit. No personal savings. He's still paying the recruitment agency's fees. No health insurance in place. Language varies, and he's in Canada with his family. Wife is not working because the kids are not enrolled in school. So then the worker visits MOSAIC to request support. So we receive different requests for workers across BC employed in different industries, from construction companies to janitorial services. And so these workers come to MOSAIC. He texts through WhatsApp. I need to speak to you, Carolina. Could you please give me an appointment? So we explain the worker that now we're working from home, but we can immediate support them through Zoom meeting or to WhatsApp or a phone call, because we need to know more in details what it's happening in their life. So the worker get an appointment. We hear his story, and we go through intake form and confidential agreement, which is out of the first step in MOSAIC. We explain the services available for him and the wife, and they need to provide a proof of the work permit because the program is for closed work permit workers, And then we assess the situation with the worker, and we gather all of the documents. So based on this scenario, I think that the worker is eligible to apply for the open work permit for vulnerable workers. He could report the employer to Employment Standard Branch for lack of payment and wages and deductions. He can also submit an online complaint through the online fraud tool report, which is a tool that it is available around Canada, and it's really easy to fill it out. It is in different languages. Also, we can contact WorkSafe if the worker feels that he suffers he needs mental health support, but we can also report the employer through WorkSafe. Also, we can report the employer because it seems that there might be more workers in the same situation in this company. It's not our position to accuse the employer, but we can report to the prevention line WorkSafe and they can go and do a random inspection. Okay, so plus we need to support the employer with the housing and the food supplies because now he doesn't have any income. So when situation like this comes to MOSAIC, we of course, with the approval of the worker, we share his situation with a partner agency. In this case, that will be options. We have been working in close in this open work permit applications. So what I do is I contact Iris or Ana Parada, and I explain the situation of the worker, and we meet through Zoom or through Teams, and we discuss the situation. And if you want to add something, Iris, and we can go from there.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you, Carolina, for all the work you've been doing with the workers and supporting them. Carolina and the MOSAIC team can send a referral to us for the housing support. So we take, and see what the funds available are at the moment. And so we, they complete a form, and then in that form, they tell us why the worker feels that, they need the housing support. So they give us just a few lines so that, we have an idea what the situation is. So with that, then we process, if it's approved and we do have the funds. So then, we approve it and we make a check and then connect with the worker. So they come in and pick up the check and a curbside service. And so, yeah, we are open. Our office is open on emergency cases, which a lot of them are emergency cases. So we, with following all the health protocols, we see the clients and so usually what happens is when we are, providing the support, and we our workers talk to them and realize that they also had other needs that maybe they haven't shared, before the phone or they just chose not to. And we've been able to find out different situations, very difficult situations that they also are now going through. And so, yeah, there have been cases where maybe, especially those ones who don't have the medical services plan because they're waiting or don't have a confirmation for the extensions of the work permit. And so there was a couple of cases where the spouse is now pregnant and without services, and the children needing winter clothes, because we see them coming and they might be a rainy day and the kids are not properly dressed. So now, because we can see them because they're coming in person, so then we can see that they didn't have winter clothes. And then, there's other needs that they come, or yes, and that then, we identify other needs and trying to find, and ways where they can meet the needs, right? Being more some health support, and also like where maybe some clothing for the children, or other resources that might be available for their cases. And yeah, and I think also sharing within the staff about other cases, what, like in terms of submitting the application, what has worked before, and, okay, what could work better in this case, or other extra resources, or the legal support that the client maybe is available, or maybe now they need to be referred to VAST for some counseling. And so, yeah, so those are the many layers, right? As we go with the clients and we start dealing with them, then we start seeing more and more needs that are emerging.
Yes, I would like to mention that. So for the open work permit for vulnerable workers, we need to submit proof that of other reports. For example, in my case, I do a lot of reports with employment standard branch. So that it takes time to get a resolution from the investigation. So you can submit a complaint, let's say in August, and submit the open work permit in September, including that piece of evidence, so the report of employment standard. And next year, after 6 months, they will contact you. Employment standard will contact you, and they will contact the settlement worker, and they will ask you, are you the representative of the worker? Can you please share with me all of the file? So, because employment standard has to contact the employer also for evidence, no? So now we have the investigation process. And I feel that the difficult part is to explain the worker the timeline, because they are in a vulnerable situation. They want results faster, and sometimes it's not in our hands to provide a resolution right away. It's a step by step, and also with COVID, it's taking longer. So when we start applying for the open work permit back in 2019, the timeline was 5 to 8 days for an approval, and now it's taking 2 months, 45 days. So imagine going through that situation, no employment, you don't speak English, you don't have, your wife maybe is pregnant and she's not allowed, she has to pay for the appointment. So there is a lot of going on through the worker's mind that we need to have the right words for them to be patient. And like Iris mentioned, we have to work together, because, for example, we do the interpretation and translation, but maybe she will submit the application of open work permit, and I will submit the report with employment standard, and I will follow up with WorkSafe, the workplace injury. So it's some cases are just one process, but some cases you need to do 4 processes, so that it's more work.
Yeah, I just want to add, and probably if you are temporary foreign worker service provider, this is one case, but unfortunately, it's not only this case. There's so many more cases like this, and there's so many needs that the client have with one issue. So yeah, it takes a lot of us to be able to support the workers. Yeah.
So thank you, everyone, Iris, Jennifer, and Carolina, for speaking today on how did you respond to support migrant workers during COVID-19. We have a couple of questions, and probably this might go to Carolina and Iris. It says, how many complaints about employers do you receive a month, and how exactly do you handle these? So Iris, would you like to give your input?
Yes, we received like two type of I would say complaints. The workers, workers that call and want to find out what help they can find. They're just researching. They call us and they tell us, what their situation is, and also that and then we explain the process, and then we tell them, okay, this is the steps you need to take. If they have the language capacity, then we give them the website, the IRCC website, in terms of an open work permit, so that they know their options. And so after we give them all the information, and we let them decide, because some workers, they are afraid to move forward and lose the job and lose the housing and be in trouble. And so we explain all that. So an average, I would say, the people calling, maybe we have, I don't know, 20 calls that had issues, but not all of them move forward with an application for an open work permit, or even in some of them, they even want to do the open work permit without making the complaint, because they are afraid to move forward with the complaint. And so we had to explain every step of the application process and the complaint process, and what does it take.
Thank you. Carolina, would you like to share some input?
Yes, so like Iris mentioned, first you have to assess the situation. So not every complaint will be accepted by IRCC. That's the truth. That's the reality. If the worker, it's not providing any proof, it's difficult. And of course it's difficult because no one will think that you will work and you will get abused by the employer. So why you will be recording your hours if you're supposedly working for a serious company, and you came to Canada to provide your services, and then you went through this situation, and so you don't know that what are your rights. So I feel like most of the workers, they don't have any idea about their rights in Canada. So we have to explain them the rights, but also to share the information. We prioritize cases, and also based on the level of English. For example, if the worker speaks English, or at least can read, that makes our job easier, because we can send information, we can go through the information and explain what are the steps. They can, if they have a computer at home, they can fill it out the forms, and we can fix mistakes. Because remember, if it's for family too, we do an open work permit for the worker, an open work permit for the wife, and if they need a student permit as well. It's 4 applications. Plus, we need to make sure that the work permits is still valid. Because to apply for an open work permit for vulnerable workers, you need to have a valid work permit. If it expires, you're not eligible to apply. So I think expiration day of work permit is a priority, and the type of case also. And that's for that question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, Dennis, that in some cases, depends on the circumstances. If it sounds like an emergency situation that is being described over the phone, we do encourage, like if they feel that their life is at risk in any how, and so we really encourage them to call 911 for emergency if that is the case, so that they know their options and where it's really, when it's really an emergency, that they must leave, right? And so we just provide them with all that information, and just to see what the caller is telling us. Yeah.
And actually, that brings me to the next question. So, are there cases where you cannot help workers who come to you for help? Do you send them elsewhere? What happens to this worker when you say no, I cannot help you with what for whatever reason it is?
Yeah, I can answer that. Yes, I mean, there are different circumstances where maybe we are not be able to provide the service the workers is looking for. Um, for instance, a worker that maybe has run out of status and wants to submit an immigration application, let's just say for a humanitarian application, let's just say, just to give an example that comes to mind. Yeah, then definitely that's something that not a service that we provide. So we will give them and provide them the resources where they can go and find that help. And I think that's what some of the resources that we're developing. And so it would be where it's good to have, because then we can provide them with that handout, and so they be able to find the information that they're looking for.
Thank you, Iris. So, Carolina, could you mention a little bit more about what type of abuses migrant workers face?
Yes. Well, so we seen often workers not getting paid. That's the first thing. So they are going to work and they don't get any money. They don't receive a pay statement. So that means you don't know if you are paying for Canada pension plan, employment insurance, or the income tax. They sign a contract in their country or here in Canada, full-time job, 25 per hour, and as soon they start working for the company, as soon they receive the work permit, they are getting $13, $14 per hour, sometimes less than minimum wage. They arrive in Canada, for example, and they don't have any, they don't know about medical services. So the employer is not making sure that they have at least 3 months of private insurance, and then they can get the medical service plan in BC, for example. They are not allowed to report a work accident, a work-related accident. The worker has to report days after the accident, months after the accident, and when the employer receives the letter from WorkSafe, they cancel the claim. So it's when I step in and I contact WorkSafe and I say, I have proof of this. It was an accident. I have a video. I have a voice record. I have a witness. So this worker was working that day. So I have to activate the claim. And then through the online system that WorkSafe has in place, we can check the status of the claim. And finally, the worker can keep going to the clinic or keep getting the medical services. Another thing that it's really common right now is that the employer asks the worker to pay for the LMIA process, which is a responsibility for an employer. Also, if they have a connection with the immigration consultant or the lawyer, we don't know if they actually have a deal or something. We actually don't know. But if you don't speak English, you believe everything and you trust in the employer. So you start paying, instead of paying, I don't know, $2,000, you pay $20,000 for the whole process. So this is kind of the abuse that we see every day. And I see now recently a lot of abuse in janitorial services. So they hire people as a manager or as an architect, and they start doing janitorial services, cleaning washrooms, for example. So this is the kind of abuse that we're seeing.
Thank you. Also following up with what Iris and Carolina was saying at the beginning of the Q&A section, There is another question that says, if you emphasize how important it is to obtain documentation on all payments they make and all agreements with employers. Iris, would you like to touch base on that?
Yeah. Yes. In the ideal world, that will be perfect. That would be the dream, because that would mean that we had a previous contact with the employer, with the worker before they actually started working. But the workers that we see when they come to us is when they are already here. They already signed contracts. They've been working maybe for a couple of months and things are not going well. And so it's a bit, yeah, they're unfortunately not providing like pre-landing services so that they have this information beforehand. And especially nowadays, there's a lot of information out there, and it's wrong information. And so the work, then some workers are just saying, oh yes, I'll give you this job and then you will become PR. And of course they want that, so they're not asking for much, right? They're not asking, yeah, you have to give me a signed contract. They're just taking everything that they're being offered without being asking any papers or any proof or even they're making payments like cash payments. So they're not even questioning these third parties. They just, because they have the dream that, oh, they will be working here, then eventually they'll become PR. So that's very unfortunate. And it's something that, so all of us can come together and find ways, to provide that information beforehand. What do you need to do? What does it mean to have a contract in Canada? And then we just started to do a series of legal workshops, and some of the workshops, we're talking about that, like contracts. What does it, take to do a contract in Canada? So that now they're learning, but for some of them, maybe a bit too late, but not, because they're going to learn, and hopefully they can leave that employer if they're not being treated well, and they can find a new employer and do the right way. Yeah. Get their documentations, read their contract, understand the contract, and so they can do that the next time around.
Yes, Jennifer?
I'd also like to add that, so to echo Iris's point, unfortunately, when clients do come to us, when workers come to us, it does become kind of a damage control situation, more so than giving them information beforehand. However, that being said, the first point of entry, the first point of contact for workers is actually the Success Project, so CAN at the airport, and they do provide many resources for workers. And so that would be a good place to start in terms of giving workers information about their rights, giving information about what services and supports are available to them. That being said, before they even came to Canada, we don't, within this project, don't have contact with them in any of those three pieces, AMSA, CAN, or MOSAIC. So what happens before that, before they come to Canada, is kind of out of our hands at this point.
Thank you, Jennifer and Iris. And Jennifer, I do have a question for you. Do you have any updates regarding the funding that you currently hold? Is the funding extended, or is this project becoming a permanent program?
So at the moment, the funding is being extended only until June 30th. There is no news yet from our funders whether it will become a permanent program or not. And to add on that also there, and this might tap into the next question that might come up, but this project is actually just a pilot project within BC at the moment. However, there is talk and discussions of the project being taken nationwide, so into other provinces as well.
Yes, and this also brings me to the next question. Are similar services offered in other provinces? And who will we contact in Ontario about these support?
Mm,
Okay, I think that could be. I know that there is various organizations, and I have come across a different conference and different that we met. So that would be maybe like online, or yeah, that could be something that we can talk to our funders and see if what resources are out there. But yeah, and I think it's the value of the project of this project, right? Like the what's happening here in BC, and so really it's very positive. So definitely will be something very helpful that it can be taken across Canada. I think the value in working together in the network it's key to the success, and because everyone will bring something different and different resources to support the workers. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you're out there and other provinces, yeah, express the need, and I think that's where we'll get things moving, right? And we will be here, NBC, to support you. We have gone through and learned, the hard way, but we can share our knowledge, our best practices with all of you.
Yes, I would like to add one thing about this question is like, we need also to promote what is a settlement services. Some of the workers, they don't even know what is a settlement services and agency. So in the Canada government website, you can look for settlement services in Canada and you will see a list of agencies across Canada. So where you can see the eligibility or the requirements, you can phone, contact them. Honestly, I don't know if they have a program like our program, but there is support out there. People need just to start asking questions and looking for that. Also, it is important to mention that employment standards are different in Ontario than in BC. So everything it's different. In terms of open work permit for vulnerable worker, it's a application, a federal application, so it's different. But some of the other reports is just for BC.
Thank you. And Iris and Carolina, are your services for free, or do you charge a fee to either the employer or to the client?
Our services are completely free. We get funding for this particular project from the Migrant Workers Network, the ESDC. And I do get also my program gets funding for like other sources like the BC Settlement and Integration Services that is funded by the province here, Ministry of Municipalities, and other funders like United Way of the Lower Mainland, and other funders. So yeah, so all the services are completely free for anyone.
Yes, the same for us. Our project is funded from Employment and Social Development of Canada, and are for free as well, from Monday to Saturday, 9 to 5 p.m. And well, yes, no cost.
Thank you. I have one more question, and it says, how much time does it require to support a worker exiting an abusive situation, taking into consideration the initial meeting, maybe submitting different complaints until you close, the migrant worker's file, or if you ever close their file. So the question is, how much time does it require to support a worker in this situation?
Sorry, you mentioned it's a work-related accident? I couldn't hear the first part.
It doesn't specify the scenario, but let's say in this case that you were talking about the worker in the scenario question, how many hours did it took you, Iris and Carolina, to say, okay, we have everything we can, we have refer. How many hours in total would you say that you dedicated, for this case or for this client?
It's a difficult question.
It's a lot. And again, different cases, because when we see the client in person, and then because the client need to tell the story. Like if let's just say they are in a business situation and want to apply for an open or permit, they need to submit evidence, and they also need to submit like a narrative, like that, to say their own experiences. And just to get that information, something it's very hard, depending on the situation, because and in how long it's been that they're being abused, and what is the abuse. Let's say it could be, they're being maybe harassment or mistreatment, and so some racism. And so if it's been there like for a while, and for some workers it's very difficult, and it's a reviving traumatic experiences. So we need to give them the time. And so maybe at one appointment, there's not going to be enough time for them to tell us and put it down, or even if they go home and write it in their own language, it takes time and a lot of emotions for a lot of our workers, right? Because it's being a traumatic experience, and it's still there. And so, yeah, I would say between 30, 40 hours, maybe, that it takes time, right? Because in our end, we need to also, they need to, and the workers too, right? They need to come up with all the hours that they owe. And so it does take time, right? So I would say that about maybe 30, sometimes now, maybe, we're getting better at it. And so, but, the translation and making sure that all the documentation is correct, and providing them with information that they need to take and read. And so, yeah, it does take some time for this to be processed, right? But if it's and again, if it's something that they already have everything, so it might not take, maybe just like between, three appointments, and where it can just be sent, right? But it's just difficult cases. Yeah, that it's hard to get all the information before.
Thank you, Iris. Thank you, Iris, Jennifer, and Carolina, for speaking in today's session, responding to temporary foreign workers' needs during COVID-19 in BC. MOSAIC's Community Capacity Building Project is funded by the Government of Canada's Migrant Worker Support Network. The success of our project is due to the collaboration of the 22 funded agencies and partnerships with consulates, employers, and government agencies. So I want to thank all the attendees for attending today's session, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.